The cafe was unusually crowded that evening. Rain had driven people indoors, filling every table, every chair, every quiet corner with conversations and clinking cups. Soft jazz played in the background, barely audible over the hum of voices. Warm yellow lights reflected off rain-streaked windows, creating the illusion of comfort, even for those who felt anything but. Anya stood near the entrance, clutching her bag to her chest, scanning the room with growing anxiety. She was already late. Her phone buzzed in her hand. 3 missed calls from her friend Neha. "Where are you? I saved us a seat," the last message read. Anya took a step forward, then another, weaving carefully between tables. Every seat looked occupied. She spotted an empty chair at a table near the window. One empty seat, one man sitting there, focused on his laptop, black coffee untouched beside him. She hesitated. Then the barista called out her name, placing her order on the counter. Panic nudged her forward. "I'm sorry," she said quickly, already pulling the chair back. "My friend." She sat. Only when she looked up did she realize the man wasn't just any customer. He was watching her, not annoyed, not surprised, curious. Anya froze. "I thought this seat was empty?" he asked calmly, closing his laptop. His voice was deep, controlled, almost amused. "Yes. No. I can move," she rushed, already half standing. "You don't have to." She paused. Something in his tone made her stop. Not commanding, not rude, just certain. "I'm waiting for someone," she said, gesturing vaguely. "So am I," he replied. That should have ended it. 2 strangers, 1 mistake, polite separation. But it didn't. He gestured to the chair. "Sit. It's crowded. You're not interrupting anything." Anya sat back down slowly, heart beating faster than it should have. "Thank you," she murmured. He nodded and reopened his laptop, but she noticed he didn't immediately return to work. His eyes flicked toward her reflection in the window, then back to the screen. Minutes passed. Anya checked her phone. No reply from Neha. She wrapped her fingers around her coffee cup, grateful for the warmth. The man across from her finally spoke again. "Your friend is late." "Yes," she said with an awkward smile. "She always is. Then you're welcome to table until she arrives." She laughed softly despite herself. "You sound very sure I won't leave." "I am." She raised an eyebrow. "Why?" "Because people who apologize before they sit down usually don't walk away easily," he said. That made her smile again, small, involuntary. "I'm Anya," she said, surprising herself. He closed the laptop fully this time. "Rohan," they shook hands. His grip was firm but brief, his palm warm. The rain outside intensified, tapping insistently against the glass. "So," he said, leaning back slightly, "what brings you here on a night like this?" She shrugged. "A promise I shouldn't have trusted." He smiled. "Those are usually the most interesting ones." Before she could reply, her phone buzzed. Neha's message finally arrived. "Emergency. Can't make it. I'm so sorry." Anya stared at the screen, disappointment sinking in. Rohan noticed immediately. "She's not coming." "No," Anya sighed. "Looks like I'm officially stood up." "You could leave," he said calmly. She looked up. "I could. But you won't." She tilted her head. "And how are you so sure of that?" "Because you're smiling," he said simply. She hadn't realized she was... "Stay," he added, not as a demand, but as an invitation. "At least until the rain stops." She hesitated. Every sensible instinct told her to politely excuse herself. Instead, she nodded. "All right. Until the rain stops." They talked, at first lightly, about the cafe, the weather, the city. Then deeper, without either of them noticing the shift, about work, ambition, quiet disappointments. Anya found herself laughing more than she had in weeks. Rohan listened, really listened, not interrupting, not checking his phone. When she asked what he did, he paused before answering. "I manage things," he said vaguely. She didn't press. The rain softened, but neither of them moved. Hours seemed to fold inward. At some point, the cafe emptied. Chairs were stacked. The barista wiped down counters, glancing at them with amused curiosity. "We're closing in 10, she called gently. Anya blinked. "Already?" Rohan stood, slipping his laptop into his bag. Time moves faster when you're not trying to escape it. Outside, the rain had stopped, leaving the streets glistening under streetlights. "Well," Anya said, adjusting her bag strap, "thank you for the company. And for letting me steal your table." "You didn't steal it," he said. "You found it." She smiled. They stood there, neither stepping away. "Can I walk you?" he asked. She hesitated only a moment. "Yes." They walked side by side, the city unusually quiet. At her building she stopped. "This is me." He nodded, hands in his coat pockets. "I'm glad you sat at my table." "So am I," she said. She turned to leave. "Anya," he called. She looked back. "You didn't just sit at my table," he said quietly. "You changed the entire evening." Her heart skipped. Before she could respond, he added gently, "I'd like to see you again." She smiled, warm and certain. "I'd like that too." As she walked inside, she didn't see him leave. Rohan stayed there a moment longer, watching the door close, because from the instant she had sat down, something had shifted, and he already knew he wouldn't let her go easily. Anya didn't expect him to call the next morning. She was standing at her kitchen counter, hair still damp from the shower, scrolling absently through her phone when it rang. An unfamiliar number flashed on the screen. For a moment, she considered letting it go. She wasn't the kind of person who answered unknown calls, but something told her to pick up. "Hello?" "Good morning," Rohan's voice said, calm and unmistakable. "I hope I didn't wake you." Her heart skipped, traitorous and immediate. "No," she said quickly. "I was already up. I was hoping you'd say that," he replied. "I wasn't sure if calling was too forward." She smiled to herself. "You walked me home in the rain. I think we're past worrying about that." A brief pause followed. She imagined him smiling on the other end. "Would you have breakfast with me?" he asked. No crowded cafe this time, somewhere quieter. She hesitated, not because she didn't want to, but because she did. "Yes," she said finally. "I'd like that." They met an hour later at a small restaurant tucked away on a side street. Sunlight streamed through tall windows, illuminating polished wooden tables and white porcelain cups. It felt worlds away from the chaos of the night before. Rohan stood when he saw her enter. "You look different in daylight," he said, not as a comment but an observation. "So do you," she replied, sitting across from him. "Better or worse?" he asked. She met his gaze. "More real." He nodded as if that mattered to him more than any compliment. Breakfast unfolded easily, too easily. Conversation flowed without effort, drifting from harmless topics to things that felt oddly personal. Anya found herself talking about her childhood, her parents' expectations, the weight of always being the responsible one. She didn't plan to share so much, it simply happened. Rohan listened with the same quiet intensity as before. "And you?" she asked. "You still haven't told me much about yourself." He stirred his coffee slowly. "There are things people know about me, and things I prefer they don't." "That sounds mysterious," she said lightly. "It's practical," he corrected. "People treat you differently when they think they know who you are." "Do you let anyone know?" she asked. He looked at her then, really looked. Not easily. Something passed between them in that moment, an understanding she couldn't name. After breakfast, he walked her partway to her office. At the corner where they stopped, the city hummed around them, indifferent to the shift happening quietly between two people. "I'll call you," he said. "I know," she replied. She didn't ask when, she trusted that he would, and he did, every day. Sometimes it was a brief call, just to ask how her day was going, sometimes longer conversations late into the night. He never missed a day, never sounded distracted, never rushed her off the phone. It was comforting. A-N-D slowly, unsettling. Anya noticed the changes first in small ways. She found herself checking her phone more often, smiling at messages before she read them, turning down plans because she already knew he'd call. Rohan, on the other hand, seemed unchanged, steady, controlled, always present, but never needy, until the night he showed up unannounced. She had just returned home from work when the doorbell rang. She wasn't expecting anyone. Through the peephole, she saw him standing there, hands in his coat pockets. She opened the door, surprised. "Rohan?" "I was nearby," he said. "I wanted to see you." "Just like that?" "Yes." She stepped aside, letting him in. He looked around her apartment slowly, taking in the modest furniture, the bookshelves, the small framed photos. He noticed things. "Always did." "You live alone," he said. "Yes, you like quiet. Most days." He turned to face her. "I don't." She frowned slightly. "You don't?" "I like knowing someone is there," he said, "even if they're silent." The words lingered in the air longer than they should have. They sat on opposite ends of the couch at first, talked about nothing important, but the space between them felt charged, shrinking without either of them moving. When he finally reached for her hand, it didn't feel sudden. It felt inevitable. She didn't pull away. His touch was warm, grounding. He didn't rush, didn't demand. He simply held her hand as if he had every right to. "Anya," he said quietly, "do you trust me?" The question startled her. That's a serious thing to ask. I don't ask lightly. She thought about it, about how easily she'd let him into her days, her thoughts, her routines. "Yes," she said. "Finally, I do." His thumb brushed lightly over her knuckles. "Good." She should have asked what that meant. Instead, she leaned closer. From that night on, Rohan became a fixed presence in her life. He picked her up from work without being asked, remembered details she'd forgotten she'd shared. He noticed when she was tired before she said anything, anticipated her moods with unsettling accuracy. Friends began to comment. "He's intense," Neha said one afternoon. "Not in a bad way, just a lot." "He cares," Anya replied. "Yes," Neha agreed. "Just make sure you still have space to breathe." The comment stayed with her longer than she expected. The first time she tried to pull back, even slightly, she felt it immediately. She had canceled dinner plans one evening, saying she needed time alone. Rohan didn't argue. "Of course," he said. "I'll see you tomorrow." But the next morning there were flowers at her door, her favorite kind, no note, just them. At work, a coffee arrived from the café downstairs, her usual order. That night he called. "I hope you're feeling better," he said. She was quiet for a moment. "You didn't have to do all that." "I wanted to," he replied. "I don't like distance." "It wasn't distance," she said carefully. "Just space." There was a pause. Short, controlled. "I understand," he said. "But don't disappear from me, Anya." The words weren't threatening, but they weren't a request either. After the call ended, she sat in silence, phone still in her hand. For the first time since she'd sat at his table, a thought crossed her mind. Quiet, uneasy, impossible to ignore. She wondered if she had chosen him, or if, somehow, he had already chosen her long before. She realized it, and whether, if she tried to walk away now, he would let her. Anya began to notice the pattern after she stopped pretending everything felt normal. It wasn't that Rohan demanded her time. He never said you must come or don't go there. He simply appeared at the cafe near her office when she skipped lunch, outside her building when she worked late, at the bookstore she mentioned once in passing weeks ago. Each time, he smiled as if coincidence had brought them together. At first it felt flattering, then comforting, then unsettling. One evening she met Neha for dinner, deliberately leaving her phone in her bag. She laughed more loudly than usual, forcing herself to stay present. When she finally checked her phone later, there were no missed calls, Only one message. I hope you're having a good night. Nothing else. Relief washed through her, quickly followed by guilt for being relieved at all. When she returned home, she found him waiting downstairs, not pacing, not anxious, just standing there, hands in his coat pockets, watching the entrance like he belonged there. "Rohan?" she said, startled. "What are you doing here?" "I finished early," he replied. "I thought I'd walk you up. I didn't know you were coming." "I know," he said gently. "That's why I waited." She searched his face for irritation. There was none. As they rode the elevator, silence pressed in around them. When they reached her floor, she hesitated before unlocking her door. "You didn't call," she said quietly. "I didn't want to interrupt," he replied. "You needed space." She looked at him then. "And you were okay with that?" He met her gaze steadily. "I don't have to like something to respect it." That answer should have reassured her. Instead, it made her uneasy. Inside her apartment, he didn't sit, didn't wander. He stayed near the door as if he'd only come to ensure she arrived safely. "I'll go," he said. "I just wanted to see you." She nodded. "Thank you." As he turned to leave, she spoke without thinking. "Rohan, do you ever get tired?" He paused, hand on the doorknob. "Of what?" "Being everywhere," she said carefully. "Always watching. Always knowing." He turned back slowly. "I don't watch you," he said. "I pay attention." "There's a difference, is there?" she asked. "Yes," he replied. "Watching is about control. Paying attention is about care." She didn't argue. She didn't know how. That night, sleep came slowly. Her dreams were restless, filled with crowded rooms, familiar tables, and his voice calling her name when she couldn't see him. The next week brought a shift she couldn't ignore. Rohan began inviting her into his world, but selectively, he took her to restaurants where people greeted him with quiet respect, places where reservations were unnecessary because his presence alone seemed to open doors. He introduced her to colleagues, though never as anything specific. "This is Anya," he would say. Nothing more. She noticed how conversations paused when he spoke, how people waited for his approval even when he wasn't the one in charge of the discussion. One evening, curiosity finally got the better of her. "Rohan," she said as they sat in the back of a sleek car he'd arranged for them, "what do you really do?" He looked out the window before answering. "Why does it matter?" "Because I don't know where I fit," she said honestly. "In your life." He turned to her then. "You fit where you choose to." "That's not an answer." "It's the only honest one," he replied. She exhaled slowly. "You keep parts of yourself locked away." "So do you," he countered. "Yes," she agreed. "But I don't pretend they aren't there." That night, he kissed her for the first time, not impulsively, not roughly, as if he had waited long enough. His hand rested at her waist, steady, grounding. When she leaned into him, he didn't deepen the kiss immediately. He waited, giving her time to pull back. She didn't. The world narrowed to the space between them, to the certainty in his touch and the quiet intensity in his presence. When they finally pulled apart, his forehead rested against hers. "I don't take what I can't keep," he said softly. Her heart raced. "And what does that mean?" "It means," he replied, "that if I'm with you, it's because I intend to stay." She should have asked what staying meant to him. Instead, she let herself believe it meant safety. Days passed. Then weeks. Anya's life began to orbit around him in ways she didn't fully notice until something shifted at work. A promotion opportunity came up, one that would require relocation. She told Neha first. "That's huge," Neha said. "Are you excited?" "I think so," Anya replied. "But I haven't told Rohan yet." Neha hesitated. "Why?" "I don't know how he'll take it." That alone made her pause. That evening she told him over dinner. "I might move," she said carefully. "It's not certain yet." He didn't react immediately. He finished his drink, set the glass down gently. "Where?" he asked. "Another city. It's a big opportunity." "How long?" he asked. "Possibly years." Silence stretched B. between them. Then he smiled. That's good, he said calmly. You should take it. She blinked. You think so? Of course, he said. I won't hold you back. Relief washed over her, so strong it made her laugh softly. I was worried, she admitted. He reached across the table, taking her hand. You don't need to be, he said. Distance doesn't change what's meant to last. She squeezed his hand. You're sure? His thumb brushed over her knuckles, familiar and warm. I'm sure, he said. I'll come with you. Her smile faded slightly. Come with me? Yes, he replied simply. Wherever you go, the certainty in his voice made her breath hitch. I didn't ask you to, she said. I know, he replied. You wouldn't have to. That night, lying awake in her bed, Anya stared at the ceiling. She thought of the cafe table, the rain, the moment she sat down without thinking. She wondered if that had been the only choice she truly made, and whether, somewhere along the way, Rohan had wrapped his intentions around her so seamlessly that letting go now might not be as simple as standing up and walking away. The idea that Rohan would follow her lingered in Anya's thoughts long after that dinner ended. At first she told herself it was romantic, the certainty, the willingness to rearrange his life without hesitation. But as the days passed, the feeling shifted, becoming heavier, harder to define. She hadn't even accepted the offer yet. The next morning at work she tried to focus, but her thoughts kept circling back to his words. I'll come with you, not we'll discuss it. Not if you want me to. Just certainty, laid neatly in front of her like a decision already made. During lunch she stepped outside and called him. Rohan, she said when he answered. About last night? Yes, he replied calmly. I was wondering when you'd call. She swallowed. I don't know if I'm going to take the job. You will, he said, without hesitation. She frowned. You don't know that? I know you, he replied. You don't ignore opportunities that scare you. That doesn't mean I want everything else to change, she said carefully. There was a pause on the line. Short, controlled. I'm not asking you to give anything up, he said. I'm offering to adjust. That's not the same thing, she said. Isn't it? He asked. People compromise when they care. Yes, she replied. But compromise is mutual. Another pause. I'm listening, he said. She exhaled slowly. I need time. Time to decide what I want. Alone. The word alone hung between them. I can give you time, he said finally. But don't shut me out. I'm not, she said. I just need space to think. All right, he replied. Take it. When the call ended, she wasn't sure whether she felt relieved or unsettled. He didn't call that night, or the next day. At first, she welcomed the silence. She focused on work, met Neha for coffee, even went for a long walk by herself after dinner. It felt strange, like reclaiming something she hadn't realized she'd lost. On the third day, she received an email from the company offering the position officially. Her heart raced as she read through the details. Salary, growth, independence. A future she'd imagined long before she ever met Rohan. That evening she accepted. She told Neha first, then her parents. Their excitement was overwhelming, grounding. Only later did she text Rohan. IACC. Accepted the offer. The reply came almost instantly. I'm proud of you. Nothing else. No follow-up. No plans. No mention of himself. That night, she slept deeply for the first time in weeks. The calm didn't last. The next afternoon, she walked into her favorite bookstore and froze. Rohan was there, not browsing, not surprised, waiting. You said you needed space, she said quietly, approaching him. I know, he replied. This isn't your space, it's a public place. She stared at him. You knew I'd be here. You come every Thursday, he said gently. You told me once. She didn't remember saying it. That unsettled her more than she wanted to admit. They sat at a small table near the back. For the first time since she'd met him, she noticed the way people glanced in his direction, then quickly looked away. I accepted the job, she said again. I know, he replied. Her fingers tightened around her cup. How? You posted it, he said. Your company congratulated you. She relaxed slightly. Right. I meant what I said, he continued. I'm proud of you. Then why are you here? She asked. Because you didn't say goodbye, he said simply. I didn't know I had to. He studied her face. Are you trying to leave me behind? The question wasn't accusing. It was precise. I'm trying to move forward, she said. That doesn't automatically mean without you. But it might, he replied. Yes, she admitted. It might. Silence settled between them again. I won't stop you, he said finally. I won't follow you unless you ask. Something loosened in her chest. Thank you. But, he added quietly, don't pretend what we have is small or temporary. It's not. She met his gaze. It feel intense. It is, he agreed. Intensity isn't a flaw. It can be, she said, when it replaces choice. His jaw tightened almost imperceptibly. I chose you, he said. Every day, I need to choose myself too, she replied. They held each other's gaze for a long moment. Then he stood. I won't call, he said. Not unless you do. She nodded. Okay. As he walked away, she felt something sharp and unfamiliar. Loss mixed with relief. The weeks before her move passed quickly. Packing. Goodbyes. Last dinners with friends. Each moment carried weight. Rohan stayed away. Until the night before her flight, she heard the knock just after midnight. When she opened the door, he stood there, rain-soaked, familiar, impossibly calm. I know I said I wouldn't come, he said, but this matters. She stepped aside without a word. They stood in the quiet of her nearly empty apartment. I won't follow you, he said. I won't interfere. But I need to know, did it mean something to you? Her throat tightened. Yes, enough to fight for, he asked. She thought of the table, the rain, the certainty, the moments she felt seen and the moments she felt watched. I don't know, she said honestly. He nodded once. That's your answer, he said. He moved toward the door, then paused. I won't let you go easily, he said quietly, but I will let you go. And then he was gone. Anya closed the door slowly, leaning against it as the silence wrapped around her. For the first time since she had accidentally sat at his table, she felt the full weight of her choice. Not because he held her, but because he finally didn't. The new city greeted Anya with unfamiliar streets and restless energy. Everything felt louder, faster, sharper. The apartment she rented was smaller, the mornings colder, the nights quieter in a way that felt different from loneliness. This quiet was chosen, earned. Her job demanded everything from her: focus, confidence, adaptability. The first weeks blurred together in meetings, presentations, late evenings spent proving she deserved the position. She welcomed the exhaustion. It left little room for overthinking. Still, there were moments. She'd sit alone at a cafe watching strangers come and go, and think of that night. The rain, the empty chair, the way one accidental decision had shifted her life so completely. Rohan didn't call. True to his word, he stayed gone. At first, she checked her phone more often than she liked to admit. Then less. Then only when it buzzed. Life filled the spaces he once occupied. She made friends at work, explored the city, learned which streets felt safe at night and which cafes stayed open late. She rebuilt herself piece by piece, discovering how capable she was on her own, and yet some evenings she missed the intensity. The way he noticed everything. The way his presence had filled a room without effort. Months passed. The project she was leading reached a critical point. One presentation, one decision would determine its future. The night before, she stayed late at the office, rehearsing alone in a glass-walled conference room. When she finally stepped outside, the city was quiet, the air heavy with the promise of rain. She froze when she saw him. Rohan stood across the street, leaning against a lamppost, hands in his coat pockets. He looked exactly the same, and entirely different. Thinner, maybe, more restrained, for a moment. Neither of them moved. Then she crossed the street. "You said you wouldn't follow," she said softly. "I didn't," he replied. "I was invited." She frowned. "By whom?" "Your company," he said. "They're partnering with mine." The words landed slowly. "You run a company," she said. "Yes." She let out a quiet laugh. "You really do manage things." He smiled faintly. "I told you that much." They stood there, rain beginning to fall lightly around them. "You didn't tell me," she said, "because you didn't want me to see you differently." "I didn't want you to see me instead of us," he corrected. She considered that. "And now," he said, "you already walked away once. I don't need to hide." They walked together side by side, not touching. He didn't ask where she was going. He knew, at a small café nearby, they sat at separate chairs, a deliberate space between them. "You look stronger," he said. "So do you," she replied. "I had to learn to let go," he admitted. "That wasn't easy for me." "I know," she said. "I felt it." Silence settled, not uncomfortable, not charged, just honest. "I don't want what we had before," she said finally. He nodded. "Neither do I." She met his gaze. "I want choice, space, respect." "You have it," he said without hesitation. "And I don't want to feel like I'm being held," she added. "I want to hold you," he said. "I want to walk with you, if you'll let me." The rain tapped softly against the window. "Why come now?" she asked. "Because this time," he said, "you didn't need me. And that matters." She smiled slightly. "It does." The presentation the next day went perfectly. As applause filled the room, Anya felt a quiet certainty settle inside her. She had earned this moment, on her own terms. When she stepped outside afterward, Rohan was waiting, not watching, not looming. Just there. "Congratulations," he said. "Thank you." They walked through the city, talking like two people meeting again for the first time. No assumptions, no intensity, just possibility. At a corner, she stopped. "This is where I turn," she said. He nodded. "Then this is where I stop." She hesitated, then spoke. "Dinner? Tomorrow?" His smile was slow, genuine. "I'd like that." As she walked away, she didn't feel pulled or followed. She felt free. And when she sat alone at a cafe the next evening waiting for him, she chose the table herself. This time, she didn't sit by accident.